Thank you for the opportunity to comment to you some things of education, undergraduate education, and some aspect of the organization of this group called ITESC, which called Initiative to Transform the System. And I would like to tell you is that there were several catalysts to begin the system. The first is the one that you see here, was to learn about the low availability of palliative care for patients in Latin America. We see that in most of the Latin American countries, 5% has access to palliative care whenever available. The second of the catalysts was a message from the World Health Assembly where it promotes or proposes that the education on palliative care start in undergraduate level, and the other important catalyst was the incorporation of palliative care in the package for prevention and treatment of non-transmissible diseases, and also as a catalyst, a very old message, 1993, where it mentions the importance of putting palliative care in undergraduate training and the impact that this educational process may have in the implementation or promotion of palliative care. But the most important that made us go ahead with this initiative was the 7-year experience by teaching palliative care, an elective course at the Austral University in Argentina. And to be honest, it was an extraordinary experience to see the students' plasticity and the interest that the students had in this topic that was completely unknown. And that led to this led that in a meeting where Tania, Liliana, and myself would say, how can we help in developing the undergraduate education in palliative care? And we decided together we would work in this initiative to collaborate in the implementation of palliative care, education of palliative care. The basic goal of this ITES is to promote teaching of undergraduate teaching at the medical and nursing level in Latin America. The first topic that we thought is what was the task that the student that was learning palliative care is going to have, and there we decide that look for an acceptable definition that could be modified of a competence, and you can read it, but the most important of this definition, as we're going to see later on, is the word task, where the task is an activity developed in a specific environment, and what we didn't know or were not sure, and we're going to see that we confirm those doubts, that what tasks are we going to think that the students could comply after receiving this undergraduate training. What we did is to set up a project that had three stages, or has at this moment two. The last two are merged. They merged in the last ITES in Argentina due to logistic reasons, but the first ITES in Colombia had three stages. Number one was to call and convince the academic authorities from different universities with the advantage and benefits of teaching palliative care in the undergraduates. The second stage, done at a different time in Colombia, was to work on a consensus of competences. Every person that had some relationship to palliative care or teaching palliative care got together, and following certain guidelines, we drafted what would be the competences that we might use when we teach palliative care. And the third stage was one of not education but activation of teachers in specific teaching techniques, as we're going to see, activation of classes, Bloom taxonomy, etc. We had two meetings, one in Colombia, made in 2 different years, and one in Argentina, that's one done in 2 years. And at present, there are contacts. We have complied with the first stage in Ecuador, I believe, and in Peru, and perhaps in short time will be finished in Chile. And what we're going to look now is what did we do in these 2 days. This is the example of Argentina. Day one, we talk about the importance of palliative care, the importance of palliative care in the training of undergraduate, and during the entire day we work in drafting competences. People who participated had experience, but we also gave them some guidance so they could draft competences that we're going to be under consensus. And day two was on learning techniques, where you're going to see in detail we work and look Bloom taxonomy in the 3 dimensions, and in how we activated a classroom with interactions. What were the results of these two tasks? A wonderful package. If you look at the list of competences that emerged from these two meetings, they're almost perfect if you compare them with a list of competences from other international institutions. You say, well, we're doing fine. But our doubts, and that I have, is that all these competences can be taught in 2 days. And I say no, I don't think so. For that, from HPLC, we did some surveys, and I want to show you several things that make this package that we saw before is not fully applicable or effective. First, we're talking about 8 countries and 33 universities who participated in this survey. It was an elective course, and that limits its effect because students may choose another course. And the other was the variety in years where it's taught, this palliative care course. And that variability in year of education has to do with the knowledge they have of medicine. And the other major source of variability was the number of students on each course. 400 students in one course, I see it as something difficult in obtaining good results. And another thing that we see that one course was integrated to another one, we will have limitations. We see how many academic hours do we receive from the person in charge of the other course. And the other thing that was a surprise for us and gives us some mistrust is that the number of teachers goes from 1 to 10. The number of teachers with training in palliative care between 0 and 10, and the number of teachers with teaching experience or training in addition to palliative course went from 1 to 7. The other thing is the mean curricular time of all the university was of approximately 21 hours. So what comes out from this is that we need to be very careful and adapt these 4 topics to the task. Learning results need to be adequately calculated according to the previous variables. The content, the teaching methods, do we want to add clinical education? It's a process that has to be done and thinking on the task that the student is going to have. This is palliative care when he or she finishes or after the residency program. There are several things to consider. Another thing to consider is how much do we give to each knowledge component. I think that we can give them importance to the cognitive domains, but we didn't have time in 21 hours to give experience in psychomotor domains or affective domains. What is the result of this? Is that, to summarize, because I'm running out of time, result is the competences should be developed and the learning objectives should be developed according to the environment where the student is and depending on the task. If I had to summarize these 4 stages in developing a competence, starting from the basic stage, which is the unconscious competence, what we can do with these characteristics in Latin America is to take the student to the student knows that there's something good, that there's a need, but he doesn't know how to do it. And that's a conscious incompetence. And to conclude, I would like to show you something that happened a month ago when the 8th year of courses in Austral University. It's a 1-minute video. These are the final tasks that were asked from the students. They broke up in groups, did a final homework that we use for evaluation, and I would like to show you this video that was prepared by the students. This is his family. He has a chronic progressive disease. Most of people think that this is the only patient that needs treatment, when actually they could be aware of the palliative care much before. Palliative care has several spheres: physical, spiritual, socioeconomic, and psychic. 4 spheres of palliative care. A very short video. The students work on those topics in addition. And here we take 4, 5 topics that the students will have them file among the things that are incompetent. What's palliative care? It may be applied early and not necessarily in the final stages of life. Number 2, the care unit is the physician, the family, and the patient. A significant learning point. And number 3 is that suffering has 4 components that need to be investigated and treated independently. I'm convinced that pre-undergraduate education, as we offer in Latin America, and maybe in some occasions it can be different, but at the level that we reach, and that it is very important, is that the students have a conscious incompetence. They know that there's something useful, they know that there's something that is done in a characteristic manner, but they don't know how to do it, and perhaps that will motivate them to learn. Thank you.